A lack of resources and an increase in need.
The number one problem that all people suffering from mental health illnesses in America today is access to quality care that is competent.
From anxiety, depression, to body insecurity and risky behavior.
So we've seen the increase in vaping.
All things the teen and young adult brain just isn't equipped to deal with.
We know the teen brain is not done developing. I think peer pressure has a huge role in it.
The second leading cause of death is suicide.
But new programs, resources, and increased awareness is making a difference.
The concept that youth suicide is prevalent or is an epidemic is a myth. Kids are not supposed to be dying, period.
It is one of the few things that I can say unequivocally has been successful.
Fox 43 is working to silence the stigma by changing the conversation from fear and denial.
It'll only work if they have that bond of trust between the patient and the provider.
To love and acceptance.
Getting help is okay. It's out there. You just have to, I think, accept it and accept that you might need it and it's okay to need it.
No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, where you come from, it's important to feel connected to people.
Silence the Stigma Youth in Crisis begins right now.
Kids are not supposed to be dying, period, right?
Reese Butler is talking about one of the leading causes of death in children starting as young as 10, suicide. The creator of what's now the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline says that kids and teens around the nation are in the middle of a continuously growing crisis. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Fox 43 News, Silence the Stigma, Youth in Crisis. I'm Amy Lutz. For the next half hour, we are going to be highlighting the biggest mental health issues facing one of the most vulnerable populations in our country. We first introduced you to Robin last week, a 20-year-old from Pennsylvania who dealt with severe depression and anxiety for a majority of her teenage years. She opened up to us to tell us what dealing with the diagnosis was like before seeking treatment.
And I had been struggling a lot with my depression. And like I said, I realized that I was getting into more fights with friends and parents, and nothing was ever my fault in my head. But I think when I realized relationships starting to decline and it being harder to get out of bed.
Those are symptoms of depression that are easy to recognize in yourself or your loved ones. Like we've said, Robin has since received treatment. We'll share her story of recovery as well as life after in the next two parts of our Silence the Stigma special. Though no experience is exactly the same when dealing with a crisis. When school-aged kids are having a mental health issue, it can be confusing, to say the least. Sometimes they don't know who to reach out to for help, or even if what they're going through is worthy of intervention. Pennsylvania has an anonymous tool that aims to be the first line of defense, with the goal of keeping all students safe. Fox 43's Jackie DeTore finds out if the Safe to Say Something program is actually working.
Submitting tips is saving lives.
We know for a fact that we have prevented suicides of students.
Pennsylvania's Attorney General says the Safe to Say Something program has grown each year since the AG's office started it back in 2018. Students, parents, and teachers can submit anonymous tips about people who may be a threat to themselves or others. It started as a way to prevent a tragedy, like a school shooting.
I can say with confidence that we've absolutely stopped the violence.
Last year, there were more than 25,000 tips, with an already 250% increase this year. The highest number of reports comes from bullying.
The bullying really ties in with potential harm. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but maybe 2 months from now, if there isn't intervention.
Last year, more than 3,000 tips came from school districts right here in South Central Pennsylvania.
If you don't address those issues and you don't intervene, it can often lead to the kind of school violence that we're trying to prevent.
Once that tip is submitted, it's vetted by an analyst and then sent to someone trained to deal with the issue.
The reports that we've gotten back from the school districts have been, we would have not known that this student was suffering or in crisis or needed attention, but for the Safe to Say tip that either came in as a self-report or through a friend.
The Attorney General wants more money for the program because it's been so successful. She's asking for a 17% increase in funding in the state budget, hoping to hire 2 additional analysts and some technology upgrades. Jackie DeTore, Fox 43 News.
A Pennsylvania lawmaker wants to give students a break if they're experiencing mental health issues. Montgomery County State Representative Napoleon Nelson says he plans on introducing legislation to allow 3 excused absences for mental health reasons without a doctor's note. As of now, 12 states consider mental health days excused absences. Lawmakers have previously proposed similar legislation in the last few years, though those bills stalled in the legislature. It is no secret that being a teenager is rough. However, growing up is now harder than ever, especially on teen girls. That's why if you have teenagers, health experts say it is so important for you to start the conversation about mental health early.
It's hard to develop a sense of self when the reality that you're comparing it to is not actually real and often filtered.
Figuring out who you are is a big part of the teenage years, but in this age of social media, it's much more of a challenge. A recent study from the CDC showed alarming statistics about the declining mental health of teen girls. Nearly 3 out of every 5 teen girls felt persistently sad or hopeless in 2021. That's almost 60% more than in 2011. So what is behind this drastic increase?
We've seen this with teen girls increase in depression, anxiety, and the alarming thing is suicidality. And part of that is they are on social media, they are on their cell phones, they're connecting with other kids, but it's a very different connection than in-person communication. And that is leading to more isolation and loneliness.
So what do we do if we're worried about our girls and want to support them? Experts say talk to them and find ways to connect with them by doing whatever they like doing. Then listen. When there is silence, it's okay. They may need more time to open up, but when they talk, resist the urge to talk and listen instead.
Sometimes I think just focus on connection without talking. You may be annoying to them, but ask them to play, take them out to a place that they like to eat. Start off non-confrontational, not focusing on the issue, but just establishing the connection with them. When you see a window, when they start to talk, put whatever you're doing down and listen.
Be empathetic. Be honest with them and share your struggles. Let your teen know you feel sad and depressed sometimes too. Help them evaluate how they use social media and how they feel during and after using their phones.
You can ask them questions like, how do you feel when you get off this social media app, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it might be? What are you seeing on there? Are you connecting with real friends or people you don't really know? You have to give them the tools to be able to navigate it.
An especially alarming growing trend among teens and kids is increasing use of nicotine vapes and drugs. Studies show deaths due to drug overdoses among adolescents nearly doubled from 2019 to 2020. Researchers with the Kaiser Family Foundation say those deaths are largely attributed to the rise in fentanyl-laced substances like vapes. And it's right here in South Central Pennsylvania. A high school student had to be revived with Narcan earlier this year. That student overdosed in the Redland High School cafeteria in early March of this year. The student was fortunately able to be revived by 2 doses of Narcan. They were administered by school nurses. Doctors with UPMC say this is becoming more and more common across the region.
It's not difficult at all to add fentanyl to a vape solution. So it's, unless you're getting your vape solution from a reliable source in a sealed container, the reality is you just have no idea what it is that you're using.
While West Shore School District officials did not specifically say what this student overdosed on, the superintendent says on occasion, vaping substances being used by students are laced with fentanyl with or without the student's knowledge. As more students turn to different substances, there's a question as to why. 2 health organizations are currently working with York City School District to address the concerning trend of kids vaping. In some cases, it's children as young as 10 years old, and experts say it is directly tied to mental health.
The rise in youth use of those vaping products is a serious issue, not just in this area, but across the country.
York County health officials are warning families about a serious trend spreading among kids and teens. Both York City School District and Family First Health Center administrators say the rise in vaping among younger age groups is directly tied to mental health.
With mental health issues that are maybe not being handled appropriately, students are outletting to something that's not healthy, whether it be vaping or another, risky behavior. 2019
data from the U.S. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration shows more than 5 million high school-age students reported vaping nicotine in the past 30 days. Nicole Tome, the school-based health center manager with Family First at Hannah-Penn, says this kind of behavior can cause serious long-term issues.
Introducing any type of chemical to the brain that really shouldn't be there, like nicotine, can set a person up for an addiction with that chemical or potentially others, that are even worse. So the fact that they're more willing to try it, but also not recognizing its connection to a lifetime addiction.
That's why Family First has teamed up with nonprofit the Burns Health Education Center to bring information about the dangers of vaping directly to York students. They recently visited classrooms with students in the 5th and 6th grades.
You can have substance abuse conversations as early as pre-K and kindergarten. It can start with conversations around medications, how to take them the right way. Sometimes doing education, especially on substance use at a young age, is uncomfortable, but doing it in an age-appropriate way is so valuable because that allows students to have that knowledge before they make those decisions.
And even if there isn't school-based intervention,
I think it's really important for parents to be open and honest, and if parents don't have that kind of factual information, I would say it's okay to say that and to reference out, maybe look at websites together to find the facts.
We have more information on both health organizations as well as how vaping affects kids and teens on our website, FOX43.com. There are plenty of stressors for kids. What about adding extracurriculars into the mix? Student athletes in South Central Pennsylvania are stepping up to face the hidden opponent like a rival team.
It's really incredible to see how many people are willing to get involved in this mission and willing to support it.
Area colleges and universities are just a few of the hundreds of schools worldwide teaming up with a nonprofit called The Hidden Opponent. Coming up, how they are working to bring awareness to mental health on and off the field. There's only 24 hours in a day when you subtract 8 hours of sleep, going to class, studying, homework, practice, and eating 3 meals. The day seems so much shorter. Mental health can affect anyone, even people who seem like they have it all together, like those student athletes. FOX43's Lindsay Barta catches up with 2 Millersville University student athletes trying to end the stigma by teaming up with a world-renowned nonprofit.
There's an opponent that student athletes face that isn't visible to the naked eye. It follows them wherever they go. That opponent is mental health.
I feel like I've always known it was a serious issue because I grew up being an athlete, but when I was growing up, I feel like I would just brush my emotions to the side.
The NCAA did a study last year on mental exhaustion, anxiety, and depression, and they are 1.5 to 2 times higher in student athletes since before the COVID-19 pandemic. Mental health is a serious issue around campus, and instead of ignoring it, student athletes at Millersville University face it like a rival team.
Whenever I got injured, my mental health tended to spiral, and in high school I didn't really seek out the supports that I did in college. So I wanted to sort of propel that sort of support forward and almost pay it forward to the people who helped me get through all my struggles.
They're paying it forward by teaming up with a nonprofit called The Hidden Opponent, becoming campus captains to bring awareness to mental health issues and the stigma surrounding them. Maya Parekha and Jenna Dombrowski might play different sports, but they're on the same team when it comes to teaching fellow student athletes about mental health. They host an hour-long session once a month to advocate, educate, and support one another.
Having this program will normalize the conversation, so the people that are a little more fearful to talk about it can really use their voice.
Knowing how to balance everything can be hard.
You got it down where it's like,
No, it's actually kind of a lot when you break it down and look at like, okay, I have this much time to do homework, I have to practice at this time, I have class at this time, I also have to eat, and then I have to get 8 hours of sleep, and it just all builds up to just one like ball on fire.
And the sessions can be eye-opening.
I think it opens up a lot of doors. It's easy to say that, but it's another thing to actually see it. So these meetings kind of help with that a lot. It means a lot actually to see, especially other athletes that can relate. And then it's student athletes themselves putting on like the meetings. So it kind of shows a lot that everyone does struggle and that everyone deserves to get help.
They're bringing the fight to the playing field. A Marauder baseball player saw the hidden opponent Millersville page and reached out to bring awareness at a game. Not just talking to students, but also informing fans. It's one conversation that can lead to another to help save a life.
I hope it means that we won't lose another person. While there's no guaranteeing it, I think that spreading the word and having these meetings is one way to show people that there is help out there.
The hidden opponent has reached more than 500 campuses across the world. 42 colleges, universities, and sprinkled with a few high schools are raising awareness in the Keystone State. E-Town, Franklin and Marshall, Gettysburg, Shippensburg, and including the Ville have all campus captains that hope to turn the page against mental health.
It's really incredible to see how many people are willing to get involved in this mission and willing to support it. Coaches, fans, players, and just really all types of people. We like to say we're a community for anyone who's at all involved in the sports world or even just sports fans.
Lindsay Barna, Fox 43.
So far, we have talked about normalizing the conversation around mental health with teens. But what if that conversation is with a child? After the break, we'll find out how to get the discussion started and when it may be time to get help from an expert. When it comes to mental health, a lot of focus has been placed on normalizing the conversation. But what if that conversation is between a parent and a child? Fox 43's Sean Stryker sits down with a professional to find out how to get that discussion started, some warning signs that something might be wrong, and when it's time to seek the help of an expert.
For parents, there's no shortage of things to worry about when it comes to our children. Are they sick? Are they hurt? How are they feeling? Some of these questions may be easier to get answers to than others.
Why is it easier to talk about, pains in our legs or pains in our ears or a toothache, but yet we can't really talk about like being sad and not feeling, safe at school or feeling, worried all the time.
Joelle Jones is a licensed clinical social worker at UPMC Children's Community Pediatrics in Camp Hill. She says the responsibility to make that conversation comfortable rests on parents. And the earlier you start, the better.
The younger they are, the less they're going to be even aware that, there is a societal difference between physical and mental illness.
Getting the discussion started with older kids can prove more difficult, which is why Jones stresses the importance of listening.
I think that the more casual that you're able to make it and the more that you're showing that you're interested, that you're prepared to do active listening rather than, trying to change how they feel, the better.
Sometimes, no matter how approachable a parent is, a child might prefer talking to someone else, like an aunt, uncle, coach, or teacher.
It may be nothing you're doing as a parent, absolutely nothing, and you can't point to any reason why they're, just uncomfortable talking to you. That's okay. It's not something that you need to beat yourself up about at all.
Even if you're not the one they choose to talk to, there are a few things you should be on the lookout for.
If you see an impact to appetite, sleep, and if you see just a lot of behavioral change across environments, that's probably the best indicator that you need to consider whether or not something more might be going on.
And if you see something that concerns you, bring it to a professional.
Bring it to your pediatrician. Bring it to an outside source, an objective source, who can really use, validated assessments, standardized assessments to see if that is really outside the norm for their developmental stage.
Now, Jones says even a pediatrician can help answer questions and address concerns. They might even be able to catch something a parent misses, which is another reason why annual checkups are so important. Putting your family first, Sean Stryker, Fox 43.
And the main point we've stressed throughout this last half hour is having those open conversations with kids and teens about mental health issues. The less they're afraid to talk about things, the more likely they're receiving the help they may need. Thank you for joining us for Fox 43's special edition of Silence the Stigma, Youth in Crisis. Next Wednesday at 10 p.m., tune in for Silence the Stigma, Understanding the Diagnosis. We hear from people who have been drastically impacted by their own mental health diagnosis, who are telling their stories in hopes of helping others. Again, that's next Wednesday at 10 p.m., and Fox 43 News at 10 starts right after the break.